All right, Coach, for the first time this year, you guys have to come back to work after a loss. What was your message to the team following the game, and what was the pep in their step level the next day at practice?
Well, I think the big message was this one's over. Get ready for the next one. If we're going to feel sorry for ourselves, then that next one's probably going to be hard to win as well. A lot of work went into getting ready for the Samford game. We played hard. The kids got after it. We made some mistakes, and we had some situations where we had some calls that were calls that cost us as well. And you got to understand that after Saturday and the last tick on the clock was recorded, that one was over. We were fortunate enough to be 6-0 going into the game. We had our opportunity to be 7-0, but just didn't do the things that we needed to do. We have work to do. We have time that we need to correct the mistakes and do our best to prepare for another very good football team in East Tennessee State.
Rue Daniels, one of your veteran offensive linemen, only played in his second game of the year, coming back from an injury to his arm. He snapped. He had trouble with the shotgun snap. So 2 questions. Will he be given an opportunity to try to correct that this week? And if he can't snap the ball as well as he needs to, can you use him elsewhere on the offensive line?
Well, I think Rue is one of those guys. He's a super competitor, a heck of a player for us. And, he had the arm that was injured and needed the cast. We tried to adjust the cast to where he would be able to snap. For the most part during the week, he didn't have any problem with it. But when the game was going on, I'm sure that the bad snaps were because of he couldn't feel it, the ball the way that he normally would with the whole hand. So we'll work him this week, probably at guard as well as center, and he's too valuable a guy. He's too much of a competitor not to try to find a place for him.
In the game against Samford, you went with Joe Newman. Starting in the second half, he took over for Brandon Goodson. Your thoughts on what Joe did to spark the offense?
Did a lot. Did some great things as far as running our offense, our option plays, and then there was times that, quite frankly, he did some things that only he has the ability to do. They've got him played extremely well from a schematic standpoint, but because of his athleticism, he wouldn't let him slow play him. He got into the alley and made some big plays for us.
All right, you turn your attention to East Tennessee State this week. Now, you just faced Devlin Hodges, best quarterback in the conference. Now you get Austin Henrick. Are there some similarities? Because in terms of numbers, Henrick can do some pretty good things.
Yeah, they're outstanding offensively as well. This league probably has 3 to 4 guys that can chunk it as well as anybody in the country at any level. And East Tennessee has their own way of throwing the ball around. They do the RPOs, screens, and kind of a combination maybe of a Mercer and a Samford. So big challenge. We got to make sure that we get our guys dialed in. We're going to have to be a complete team when we go up there. They do everything well. You can tell they're really well coached, and they're not going to give you a whole lot. So we're going to have to work for it this week just like every week. It's a Southern Conference game, and that's just the way it is.
Your defense did such a good job at shutting down Samford's run game. They just about abandoned it. Will ETSU try to run? Are they a little more committed to trying to run the ball maybe than the Bulldogs?
Well, they're going to find out from the get-go whether you can stop the run or not. And I'm sure that conceptually they feel that they have some schemes that can attack our defense. When you look at us defensively, we're almost a carbon copy of their defense. So they have a great deal of familiarity with the 50 defense, and so they're going to have their package to be able to attack us and try to find an edge and advantage to where that they can execute and put points on the board.
All right, Joe, tough loss to Samford. You enter the ball game at quarterback in the second half. You provide the team a spark. What was that second half like? What's it like to be on the sideline? Brandon's playing pretty well, knowing that at some point you may get in the ball game. How do you keep yourself mentally ready?
Just keeping up with what's going on in the game. Like when Brandon comes off, I ask him like what they're doing and if anything's weird, things like that, and just staying into the game and knowing that I could go in at any point, basically.
When you entered against Samford, what were you thinking in terms of the fact, hey, this is a close game, you've taken a look at their defense. What did you know was going to be important in that game Saturday?
I knew ball security would be important. We're always stressing that we can't turn the ball over. And, besides the play clock, I tried to stay away from the scoreboard and just focus on each play, go play by play.
You're a sophomore now with the program. Let me start with this, and I always ask quarterbacks this. Did you run the option in high school? And if not, what was it like to learn the option when you came here?
I did run the option. It was a little different, slightly different, but not too far off. The same reading, end guys and midline kind of stuff, but it wasn't too far off from high school.
What have you learned about the game of football since coming to Wofford in your year and a half with the program? What kind of things have you learned? What's different between high school and college for you?
Well, the main difference is the game speed, of course, is way different. You can't waste space in college. They stress like staying tight to certain blocks and, being where you're supposed to be at the right time and stuff like that. So, it's definitely can't be late on certain reads. In high school you might get away with it, but you won't get away with it in college.
The team was 6-0 up until this past Saturday. What was the mood like after suffering a first loss and a close loss, and how do you guys rebound from that?
I mean, it was tough. Nobody likes losing, but we're close. Everybody loves each other, so like we don't let each other hang low too long. We keep each other's spirits up. So we'll bounce back from this one.
Got to ask you this about your freshman year. There was a thought that because there were so many quarterbacks on the roster when the year started that you may not play last year, that you might have redshirted. Then all of a sudden people keep getting hurt and you ended up playing. What was that like going through that season, and what was it like when you had your first opportunity to get out there?
Well, honestly, it was kind of nerve-wracking because like all us quarterbacks are really close, so we don't like seeing each other like get hurt, obviously. So like seeing each guy go down was kind of hard, but just knowing that I had to prepare myself, for the possibility of going in kind of kept me on edge and forced me to take those mental reps and make the most of my reps when I do get in.
Talking with Wofford quarterback Joe Newman. You're from the Atlanta area, Riverdale, Georgia, south of the city. How did you find out about Wofford? Had you heard of Wofford before you were recruited?
Yeah, I heard of Wofford on the PlayStation. I was playing NCAA, and back when Reggie Bush was on the cover, they had all the FCS teams too. So I remember seeing Wofford at the end and playing around with the team a little bit.
Luke, you're off to a pretty good start. You backed up David Marvin. What was it like working with him, learning some things from him? He was one of the best kickers Wofford ever had.
Yeah, it was awesome. David's a really smart guy. It was almost kind of like having a kicking coach on the field with me. he knew so much about kicking mechanics. If he had made a mistake, he was able to correct it right after. So if I made a mistake, I'd go to him and ask him what I could fix. And just any time I could pick his brain, I would.
You had to be patient. Was it difficult waiting your turn?
It was. You want to help out the team, especially on game days. So I kind of knew that my role, was backing him up, and if there was an injury, I'd give him my chance. But I took pride in helping out the kickoff return, punt return teams, and just doing any way I could. But it's awesome now to get on the field and help out this team.
He could have come back for a 5th year and decided to go post-grad at Georgia. So what was that like when you found out, I'm going to be the guy now?
Well, first I was happy for him. He had a great year, and it's kind of like an honor for him. And anytime you get the chance to move up and play that level of football, it's great for him. But I was really excited. The opportunity window kind of opened up, and I felt really prepared. I felt like I've gotten stronger since I first came in here as a freshman, and I knew I would have a good year.
You do all three. You do placements, you do kickoffs, you do punts. In practice, typically, what percentage do you devote to each day?
I try to make time for all three. Punting and field goals or punting and kicking are two different swings, so you really can't try to, take them on at the same time. I'll spend one day maybe just focusing on kicking, field goals and kickoffs, and the next day punting. And then as you kind of get closer to game day, I'll work with both, because when Saturday hits, when we hit the 40 or 50-yard line, it could go either way. We could punt or we could kick a field goal. So I try to work really hard on being able to hit the same swing at both times.